Welcome to the problem-solving set on lethal alleles and pleiotropy. Question 1. In a species of tropical fish, the SM allele of a gene for scale color is a recessive lethal allele, but dominant for a colorful orange and black pattern called Montezuma, whereas wild-type fish are gray. Our non-allelic gene, gene A, is required for scale color and produces albino fish when homozygous recessive. What phenotypes and ratios of offspring would you expect from the following crosses? So let's define our alleles first. We know that SM, when crossed with the regular S, that gives you Montezuma fish. However, if you have SM, that is the lethal allele, so we'll say lethality. Okay. Now for gene A, you need at least one big A to have color. And if you're little a, you're albino. Oh, and we can also say that regular SS with no SM allele is gray, and that's the wild type fish color. Okay, so let's look at A. So you're crossing a Montezuma fish, which is SM, S, big A, little a, and you're crossing it with an albino fish, which is SM, S, little a, little a. So to figure out the offspring of this cross, let's do the simple line method, but we have to be careful because there is a lethal allele in this population. So let's just do the simple Punnett square first for the S gene, just so I can show you something. Okay, so parent 1 has SM, S, and same goes for parent 2. Okay. So as we defined up here, SM is lethality. So this offspring is never born. Now these two, the SMS, they're Montezuma. So let's just say Montezuma, and this SS is gray. Okay? So when we do the simple line method, we're going to have to keep that in mind. So let's look at the S gene first. We know that it's not going to be the simple monohybrid cross because 1 out of the 4 never are born and therefore aren't taken into consideration. So out of the 3 left, you have 2/3 chance being SM, S, and 1/3 being SS. Now for the albino gene, it's big A times little a, little a. So it's 1/2 chance of big A, little a, 1/2 little a, and the same for down here. Okay, now let's multiply those across. So now you have 2/3 times 1/2 is 2/6 chance of being SM, S, big A, little a. 2/6 chance of being SM, S, little a, and now it's 1/3 times 1/2, so you have 1/6 chance of being SS, big A, little a, and 1/6 chance being SS, little a. So these are the genotypes. So what are the phenotypes? For this, SMS, big A, little a, that is a Montezuma fish because it has one dominant allele at the A gene, so therefore it can be colored, and having the SM allele calls for Montezuma. So this one is Montezuma. This other 2/6 is SMS, which you would guess Montezuma, but because it's homozygous recessive at gene A, it's albino. Down here, being SS, big A, little a, means that they're gray, and they can be colored because they have the one dominant allele at gene A. And this one, because it's homozygous recessive at A, is again albino. So let's add them all together. 'So for Montezuma, it is just 2 out of the 6, so we'll just say 2. For gray, it's 1 out of the 6. And for albino, it's 2 sixths plus 1 sixth, which is 3. So for part A, this is the ratio of offspring. So just write that here and box it in. Okay. Now for cross B, it says a Montezuma fish, SMS, big A, little a, is crossed with another Montezuma fish, which has the same genotype. So you have SMS, big A, little a, times SMS, big A, little a. Now if you look, both of these fish are heterozygous at both genes. So you would think that this is a normal dihybrid cross, but because SM is a recessive lethal allele, you know that this is a Mendelian extension. So again, when you cross SMS times SMS, 1/4 of the offspring won't even make it to birth. So we're going to say that it's 2 out of the 3 is SMS, and 1 out of the 3 that make it are SS. And you can look at the Punnett square above just to double check that. Now for gene A, you have big A, little a times big A, little a. So this is a monohybrid cross for this gene. So you're going to have 1/4 big A, 1/2 big A, little a, and 1/4 little a, little a. Now if you want to save some time here, you should take note that little a codes for albino, but if you have at least one big A, then you can have coloration, and it will really only matter what you have at gene S. So you can combine these two to just say 3/4 have at least one big A. And then you can multiply that across instead of doing two separate ones. So you could say the same down here. Okay? So let's multiply these across. You have 2/3 times 3/4, and that equals 6, 12, and these are SMS, big A, dash, because it could have a big A, or big A, little a. Then you have 2/3 times 1/4, and that gives you 2/12 SMS, little a, little a. For here you have 1/3 times 3/4, which is 3/12 SS, big A, and then 1/12 SS, little a, little a. So these are the genotypes, so let's look at the phenotypes again. If you have one big A, that means you can have coloration, and this coloration codes for Montezuma. The second one is homozygous recessive at A, so this is albino. In this one, you allow coloration, and SS codes for gray. And again, homozygous recessive at A codes for albino. So, in this cross, you have 6 Montezuma, 2 plus 1 is 3 albino, to 3 gray. And these are the offspring ratios for B. Question 2. In fruit flies, the allele M is lethal when homozygous m, or hemizygous my, as in males. A female, m plus m, is crossed with a wild-type male, m plus y. What is the probability that their first surviving offspring will be male? So let's do the Punnett square for this cross. So the female has m plus an m, and the male is wild-type, has m plus and y. So we have m plus y, m plus m, in MY. So just take note that this must be an X-linked allele, and that's why we're writing it as M plus Y. Okay, so are any of these lethal? Saying this allele is lethal when homozygous, little m, which we don't see, but also when hemizygous, which is little my, as in males. So this male won't ever be born. It's a lethal allele when it's hemizygous. So it says, out of the surviving offspring, what is the probability that the first will be male? So there's only 3 surviving, and out of the 3, one of them is male. So for A, the answer is 1/3. Now for B, it says, if one of the daughters from the cross is mated with a wild-type male, and remember that wild-type males are M plus Y, what is the probability that their first surviving offspring will be a carrier for the lethal allele? So it's saying, from this cross, if you take one of the daughters, and the daughters are here, and you mate them with a wild-type male, and you're asking if they'll be a carrier for this lethal allele. So in order to pass on the lethal allele, the parent must have it. So the probability of one of these daughters having the lethal allele, which is here, is 1/2. Now, if you cross this female with a wild-type male, it's going to be the same as above, but let's just draw it again. Okay? And again, this individual is lethal. It's not born. So it's asking, what is the probability that the first surviving offspring will be a carrier? So to be a carrier, this is the only lethal allele that we see. So this was 1 out of the 3rd. 1 out of the 3 are carriers. So it would be 1/3. So you multiply these across because you remember you have to have the carrier mother in order to have a carrier offspring. So it's 1/2 times 1/3. So that's a total probability of 1/6. Question 3. A condition in chickens known as creeper is characterized by stunted legs. Chickens with creeper have a heterozygous genotype C', while normal chickens are homozygous CC. The genotype C', is lethal. Determine the phenotypic ratios of offspring in the following crosses. So for A, it's creeper times creeper. So in order to have this creeper condition, you have to be C', C. So let's do the Punnett square. So you have C', 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 C, C', C, and CC. Now remember, C', C is lethal. So therefore, this offspring won't ever be born, and there's only 3 viable offsprings. So let's see the phenotypic ratios of these. You have 2 out of 3 C', C, and that equals creeper. And 1 out of 3, you have CC, and that equals normal. So the phenotypic ratio for this cross would be 2 creeper to 1 normal. For the second cross, you have a creeper chicken times a normal chicken. So to be creeper, again, it's C', C, and a normal is CC. So let's do the Punnett square. You have C', C, CC, C', C, CC. Now none of these offsprings are C', C', so none of them have the recessive homozygous lethal allele. So we have 2 out of the 4 now, because all 4 are viable offspring, are C', C, which equals creeper, and 2 out of the 4 are CC, which is normal. So for this cross, it's 1 creeper to 1 normal. Problem 4. 2 genes are located on separate autosomal chromosomes. One gene determines hair color in rabbits, where big H is lethal, big H is yellow hair, and little h is gray hair. The other gene determines hair length, where big S for short hair is dominant to long hair. A yellow rabbit pure breeding for short hair is crossed with a gray rabbit with long hair. The F1 contained some yellow rabbits and some gray rabbits. 2 of the yellow F1 rabbits were mated. Determine the phenotypic ratios for the F2 generation. So let's look at the original parental generation. It says a yellow rabbit pure breeding for short hair. Now to be yellow, you have to be big H, little h. And if it's pure breeding for short hair, that means it's big S, big S. Now the other parent was gray rabbit with long hair. So to have gray hair, you have to be little h, and to have long hair, it's little s, little s. So let's look at the F1 generation. Crossing these two parents, you know that half of them are going to be big H, and the other half are going to be little h. And if you cross big S times little s, then they're both big S, little s, little s. So these here with the big H, little h, these are the yellow offspring. And little h are the gray-haired offspring. Now notice that both of them have short hair. So let's write short, and that's because they have the one dominant allele for the short hair gene. Okay, now it's saying 2 of the yellow F1 rabbits were mated. So we're going to cross big H, big S, little s, times big H, big S, little s, to get the F2 generation. So you could do the 9 to 3 to 3 to 1 dihybrid Mendelian ratios. However, because there's a lethal gene involved, let's do the line method and see where the lethal gene comes in. So let's first cross the H gene. And we'll do a Punnett square just to show what's happening here. So one parent has a big H, little h, and the other has big H, little h. So if you remember from the question, it says that big H is lethal, which means this is not a viable offspring here. So there's only 3 viable offspring. So there's 2/3 chance of being big H, and a 1/3 chance of being little h. Now for the S allele, you only need one dominant S allele to have short hair, and to have long hair you have to be homozygous recessive. So as we did in the previous problems, we can just write 3/4 having one big S with a dash, because you have 1/4 big S, and 2/4 big S, little s. So total it's 3/4. And then you could have the 1/4 chance of being little s. Now the same for down here. And this is just because they're asking for phenotypic ratios. If they wanted the actual genotypes, you would want to separate that out into homozygous dominant and heterozygous. But here we can just put them together and save some time. So now here's this genotype. There's let me move this. Okay. So 2/3 times 3/4. So you have 6/12 being big H, little h, and at least one big S. Then you have 2 out of 12 big H, little s, 3/12 little h, at least one big S, and 1/12 little h, little s. But what are these phenotypes? If you have a big H, little h, that means that you have yellow hair. And if you have one big S, that means you have short hair. So this is yellow and short. Again, big H, little h is for yellow hair, but having 2 recessive S alleles, that means you have long hair. So this is yellow and long. Having little h is for gray hair, and one big S is short. So you have gray, short, and little h is gray, and little s is long. So this is gray, long. So in total, the F2 generation is 6 yellow short, to 2 yellow long, to 3 gray and short, to 1 gray and long.